why is it? Why does data visualization, like, why is that so important to you?
It actually started by presenting my data. So I've always been a data nerd. Like I said earlier, I'm a nerd. I like data. I like all this programming stuff and that kind of nerdy stuff. But not all the bosses and managers know that or understand. Let me back up. Not all of them can understand what you do. And so back when I was with the Arizona Department of Transportation, I remember having to put together a presentation for the director. At that time, it was Victor Mendez was the director of the Arizona Department of Transportation. And here I am in this room with him and some other leaders, division leaders, and so forth. And I'm presenting on traffic counts and traffic data, which is a very boring subject. Okay, at least for the common person, right? And you can see the look in these people's eyes when you're presenting, and they're kind of glazing over, like, "Oh my gosh, this is awful." And you have all the slides with all this data, and it's just boring. And I specifically remember going back to my desk after that, thinking, "Oh my gosh, I totally blew that. I need to find a way that will make it interesting to them and to them so that they will understand what the point is of my data. What is it showing? What's going on here?" And so that's kind of where what led me into the whole data visualization process was trying to understand how to best communicate data. As boring as it can be, make it a little interesting, make it intuitive so that people can look at that and they know exactly what you're talking about. They can quickly grab the insights that you see in your data. And so that's what led me to that, and I've been on that ever since. And luckily, when I was at MAG, when I went to MAG after ADOT, they really let me stretch myself, and they kind of set me loose and said, "Hey, we need this. We have this data, this information. Can you make this more presentable? Make it so that people can understand it?" And so that was a great experience, and I really enjoyed it.
Your data visualization or infographics or maps that you create, I love looking at. They're so colorful and they're just really cool to look at. And it kind of shows a little bit of your personality. Have you found retrieving data to be difficult at times?
Oh, getting data?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you can get it. I do use a lot of census data. And so it can be a real monster to pull data out of census if you're not used to it because there's so much there. But fortunately, um, I've been working with census data for decades now, since I think the first one was the 1990 census data. And so I know it. So that makes it easy for me is knowing the data, but it's just because with a lot of experience. But one of the hardest parts, I think, which maybe you were touching on, is sometimes you just can't get the data. Sometimes it's behind a paywall,
Mm.
which we call it now, or some government agency just they can't share it because maybe there's confidentiality involved there, and you need something for your data. Even when I worked as a government employee, we still could not get certain data items, such as employment data from the state, trying to figure out where different employers are, how many employees they have, and that sort of thing. That stuff's all protected and it's confidential. We had to pay for it. And so there's companies that would, that compile that data and do some work with that data. So if there's a big need, sometimes you can get it. Sometimes it costs a lot of money. I say that's the hardest part. The second hardest part actually is once you get the data, formatting it, cleaning
Mhm.
it, so it's in a usable way for whatever your needs are, for whatever you're doing. So that's another part of data.